Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we are focusing on a country that's undergoing a transformation so vast, you could almost call it a national rewiring project.
That's a great way to put it.
We're doing a deep dive into India's monumental infrastructure build-out, which is really the backbone for its ambitious goal of becoming a developed economy by 2047.
And that date, 2047, is key. What's fascinating about this moment is that this isn't simply about construction activity.
It's more than just pouring concrete.
Exactly. I mean, the sources define this as one of its biggest infrastructure build-outs in history, and yes, it is. But the strategic emphasis, the whole design, is on creating interconnected economic networks.
And what's the end goal of those networks?
It's all engineered specifically to slash these historically high logistics costs and, really accelerate manufacturing capability across the entire country.
Exactly. We've poured over the stack of sources for this, and it covers everything from superhighways to high-speed rail, freight corridors, and these revolutionary green energy grids.
It's a huge stack.
It is. So our mission today is to really uncover how this massive push is fundamentally changing not just how goods move, but how opportunity is distributed.
Yeah.
We want to give you a real shortcut to understanding the mechanics of this transformation.
It's a systemic shift. I mean, you're seeing a move from a geographically fragmented economy to one that is designed to function as a single, seamless, integrated unit.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Where do we start? Let's go to ground zero. The physical reshaping of the landscape with all these new roads.
Right.
Everyone's heard of flagship projects like the Delhi-Mumbai Expressway. It promises to cut transit time between those two massive commercial hubs in half.
A huge deal. But that's really just one piece of the puzzle.
Part of the much broader Bharatmala program.
Exactly. The physical scale is just staggering. And it's less about connecting the major metros, the big cities we all know, and more about connecting the internal economic production centers.
So what does that look like on the ground?
We're talking about thousands of kilometers of new national highways being added at a record pace. To give you a sense of the scale, the sources point out that a state like Telangana, which is deep in the interior,
Right.
is seeing over 1,100 kilometers of sanctioned highway projects in just the current phase alone. It's a geometric expansion designed to link agricultural, mining, and industrial hubs directly to the main arteries.
The pace itself is remarkable, but here's where the analysis gets really interesting for me, because these aren't just concrete ribbons.
No, not at all.
We're seeing what the sources are calling digital roads or digital highways. Can you explain what that integration actually means in practice?
This is the critical piece that really future-proofs the whole economy. When we say digital highways, we mean a dual infrastructure.
Okay.
The physical road moves the truck, but a fiber-optic corridor, which is often built right alongside it or even buried beneath it, moves the data.
And that data pipeline is for what exactly? Is this about 5G connectivity for every vehicle on the route?
Precisely. It facilitates ubiquitous 5G coverage, which then enables things like real-time traffic management systems. So instead of just reacting to a traffic jam,
The system can predict it.
it predicts and manages the flow, which maximizes throughput and safety. And crucially, it creates the environment for connected and semi-autonomous vehicles.
Which need that constant low-latency data to function.
They rely on it entirely to operate efficiently over long distances. It really transforms the road from just a passive surface into an active, managed ecosystem. This is what separates this build-out from projects even a decade ago.
That makes perfect sense. The economic logic is clear. Faster, more predictable transit means lower costs. But once you move goods quickly on a highway, you hit the next bottleneck.
The high-volume bulk cargo.
Exactly. So let's move to the heavy lifting, rail and sea. The goal here seems just as ambitious, decongesting those old overburdened lines and just slashing transit times.
Well, the core problem with the existing rail network is that passenger and freight trains are all sharing the same tracks.
Which means the cargo always gets the short end of the stick.
Always. It leads to slow, unpredictable movement. So on the rail side, the strategy involves huge upgrades, but also the development of these monumental dedicated freight corridors, or DFCs.
And this is where the real insight is, isn't it? What's the quantifiable benefit of a DFC?
They're absolute game changers because they are designed purely for cargo. Double-stacked containers, higher speeds, fully electrified. I mean, currently, a container moving from the north to a port on the west coast, that might take 7, maybe 10 days.
Wow.
With the DFCs fully operational, the predictability shoots up, and that transit time could be cut to just 2 or 3 days. That saving in time, inventory, and fuel translates directly into lowering logistics costs. That is the explicit target.
And just the reduction in unpredictability has to be worth billions to manufacturers.
Oh, absolutely.
Uh,
And in parallel with this, you have the flagship passenger projects, like the first Mumbai Ahmedabad high-speed rail line.
which gets all the headlines.
It gets the headlines, and it's symbolic of that aspiration for speed. But it's the DFCs that are doing the quiet, heavy economic lifting in the background.
So if the DFCs are feeding the ports, that brings us to the maritime focus, especially the development under the Sagarmala initiative. India already has a huge coastline. Why is building new deepwater ports a strategic priority now?
It really comes down to global competitiveness, capacity, and maybe most importantly, strategic independence.
What do you mean by that?
Traditionally, India has relied very heavily on foreign transshipment hubs. So large vessels offload cargo in places like Colombo or Singapore.
And then smaller, more expensive ships have to finish the journey to India.
Exactly. You're adding middlemen and huge delays into the system.
Right.
So the focus now is on developing deep water ports that can handle the world's absolute largest container ships, the mega vessels, directly.
And we have a specific example of this, right?
We do. The Vizhinjam port project in the south is a perfect example. It's designed from day one to service those giant vessels. This reduces that dependence on foreign hubs, saving time and money.
And if India can capture that transshipment traffic itself, it keeps the economic value at home.
And it massively enhances supply chain resilience. The whole goal here is creating a seamless, multimodal logistics spine, a transport system where a container can jump from a truck to a train to a ship without delays or a mountain of paperwork.
That seamless spine is essential, but it needs a massive, constant, and clean power supply to run everything.
A very good point.
Let's pivot to that parallel challenge. And you could argue it's the largest capital challenge, which is the rapid expansion of renewable energy. We're talking solar and wind installations happening at a blistering pace.
It's a colossal effort, running right alongside all this other construction. The target that's articulated in the sources is almost dizzying. 500 gigawatts of non-fossil capacity by 2030.
500 gigawatts.
That goal just underscores the sheer urgency of the energy build-out required to power this developed nation vision, especially since all these new industrial corridors demand reliable, affordable, and green power.
So we have the generation part ramping up. Solar and wind parks are adding record gigawatts, sometimes even faster than planned. But, and this is the critical complication, the sources highlight a pretty significant hurdle.
The implementation is struggling to keep pace.
Specifically with the transmission infrastructure, the grid is lagging behind.
And this raises a profound question about coordination, The ability to generate power is one thing. The ability to deliver it reliably across thousands of kilometers is entirely another. The source material details this grid struggle very explicitly.
What does it say?
Recent assessments show that the addition of new high-capacity interstate transmission lines is consistently falling behind the stated targets.
And we know this leads to that economic paradox of clean energy, don't we? You're generating power in a desert in the west, but you can't always get it to the high-demand cities in the south or the east.
Precisely. Which results in the absurd scenario of power curtailment. Solar farms sometimes have to literally switch off, wasting the energy because the lines are either full or just non-existent.
So the power is there, it just can't get to where it's needed.
Right. And even worse, many existing interstate corridors that could carry more power are underutilized because of bureaucratic delays or a lack of investment in local distribution.
So what does this signal to an investor? Someone looking at building a massive new factory in one of these corridors.
It signals risk, a big risk. This bottleneck signals a critical need for faster, more streamlined grid upgrades and a much tighter alignment between generation growth and transmission expansion.
It sounds like the whole thing could grind to a halt without it.
Look, the long-term efficacy of all the highways and ports hinges entirely on reliably powering them with affordable green energy. If they can't fix the grid bottleneck, all those efficiency gains from the DFCs start to just evaporate. The grid is absolutely the critical story to watch.
That issue of power delivery is a perfect transition to the final piece of this puzzle, the destination. Where is all this infrastructure actually feeding into?
Right.
We're seeing the creation of these future-ready urban centers through schemes like the industrial corridors and smart city projects, often overseen by bodies like the NICDC.
And just to clarify, NICDC is the National Industrial Corridor Development Corporation, and its entire focus is making these regions function. The intent behind these new urban hubs is to define a completely new standard for living and industry.
How are they different from the existing, organically grown cities?
They're defined by integration.
Yeah.
They're greenfield townships built from scratch, and they feature integrated utilities, seamless public transit, and advanced digital infrastructure woven in from the very first blueprint. They aren't reacting to growth. They're designed as engines for it.
And the sources give us specific examples. We see the rise of the already successful gift city in Gujarat, but also all these upcoming special investment regions and new greenfield townships planned along the corridors.
These are strategic economic zones. They're purpose-built to eliminate the infrastructure headaches that plague older cities. They offer manufacturers guaranteed water, reliable electricity, and high-speed road and rail access from day one.
They're designed as magnets.
Exactly. Magnets for advanced manufacturing, for sophisticated services, and for technology jobs.
So what's the ultimate payoff here? What does all this mean for that 2047 target?
Well, if you look at the trajectory, these hubs are the final destination. They are the realization of all that investment in roads, rail, and ports. By creating these incredibly efficient nodes, India is supporting its mission to build a globally competitive infrastructure-backed economy by that deadline. It's a massive logistical and technological leap.
So to sum up this deep dive, it's just a staggering feat of coordination and capital. We've gone from thousands of kilometers of new fiber-optic integrated highways to DFCs slashing transit times, to deep water ports like Vizhinjam reducing foreign dependence, and these huge 500 gigawatt green energy targets. The core message that really emerges from all the sources is one of rapid, massive interconnection, all intended to fundamentally redesign how the economy flows.
That interconnection is the key. But let's circle back to that critical challenge we identified, because it really will determine the final success of this whole effort.
The alignment.
The alignment. The long-term efficacy of this entire 2047 vision, the ability of these new cities to attract global investment, it all hinges on how quickly the country can resolve that lag between renewable energy generation and the transmission upgrades.
If the power flows smoothly, the economy can scale.
And if it doesn't, the system stalls. So what really stands out to you in that energy equation, knowing that its solution isn't just an engineering problem, but a major political and logistical hurdle? The speed at which they solve that specific bottleneck won't just define India's infrastructure story, but potentially the realignment of global manufacturing supply chains for the next generation.